Good day to my classmates all over the world and welcome to another chess video. Today we're going to learn about the board, the pieces, and how it moves. Now to start with, okay, this is the starting position of the chess game. When you start a chess game, this is how it starts. This is how it looks like. This is the point of view for white, and this is the point of view for black. Now, if you will understand, this is going to be difficult for me to actually teach or for you to learn if we don't know the things that I'll be discussing in the next following minutes. So we're going to start with learning the board. Now, the board is composed of how many different squares? Let's start counting. One, two, three, four. Oh no, it's gonna take too long. Let's go ahead and figure this out. Okay, so there is a pile of 8 squares on a horizontal line and a pile of 8 blocks on a vertical line. Now let's go ahead and continue doing this. It's 8 by 8. So how many different squares are there on a board? Yes, you are correct. It's 64 squares and it's composed of light colored squares and dark colored squares. Okay? And did you know that all these squares has its unique name? No, it's not like giving names to your cats and to your dogs or to any of your pets, but there is a method on how we know the names of the squares. How? Okay? So we must know the lines of the board. Okay, these horizontal lines going up and up, bottom to top, is what we call files. And this vertical lines is represented by letters. Okay, so for example, I put this blue circle on this square. Which file is it on? Yes, correct. It is on the G file. How about this yellow circle? Yes, you are correct. It's on the E file. You're getting it. And how about this red square? Is it on a B file? Of course not. Yes, you're correct. It's on the C file. And this green circle is actually on which file? Yes, it's on the A file. Now, it's not enough that you know the files. You also need to know these horizontal lines which is represented by numbers. Okay, and these lines are what we call ranks. Okay, so again, let's put this blue circle on this square. Which rank is it on? Is it on the fourth rank or the third rank? Yes, it is on the third rank. How about this yellow circle? Now it's on the fourth rank. How about this red circle? It is on the eighth rank. Now, another example is this. Which square or which rank is this green circle on? It is on the sixth rank, correct. So I guess you're now having a clue on how it works. So we just need to combine the files and the ranks and find its coordinate and determine the name of the square. For example, this one. What is the name of this square? It's on the C file and it's in the fourth rank. Yes, you are correct. It's on the C4 square. Wow, amazing. How about this yellow circle? Yes, it's on the F5. Now let's try another one. How about This green circle, it's on the A file and it's on the first rank. So we call this square, yes, A1 square. How about this red circle? Yes, it is H7. Okay, and that's how we determine the names of the squares. So all of these squares on the board has a name. Now, why is it important for us to know the names of the square? Because when we are learning chess, when we're learning chess, if I move the pawn here, how would I know or how would I describe that I moved the pawn there? See, it's easy because you will just tell me pawn to e4. What if I move the knight here? You will say knight to f3. Okay, so now we get to know the board. Now we look into the pieces. The first piece that I'm going to introduce you is the rook. The rook is one of the most powerful pieces on the board because it goes to different squares, a lot of different squares if he is on the center of the board. It goes up, down, left, and right. It has the option of going one square only if he's attacking something here or here or here, two squares if he plans to go here next time or here next time, three squares, or even to the edge of the board. If the rook is right here on h8, he can directly go to a8 immediately in one move. So that's how powerful the rook is. Now, I have a question for you and comment down below for your answer. How many different squares can the rook go if he is on e4? Okay, I'll be waiting for your answers in the comments below. And this is the rook. Again, it goes up, down, left. Okay, sorry. Let me repeat that one. Again, this is the rook. It goes up, down, left, and right. And it can go as much squares as he likes if there are nothing in between these squares. And this is the bishop. The bishop is also moving on a straight line. However, unlike the rook, it doesn't go on a vertical or horizontal line. Instead, it moves diagonally. So this is the bishop. The bishop moves on a diagonal line. Just like the rook, it can go only one square or two squares or all the way to the edge of the board like this. If the bishop is on h1, it can go all the way to the end to h1. That's how powerful the bishop is. However, there are restrictions for the bishop. What is the restriction? If you notice, the bishop only moves on diagonal line. The bishop can only move to light colored square. Okay, but don't worry. Okay, when you start the game, you have two bishops, and there is what we call light colored bishop and dark colored bishop. So the dark colored bishop, the brother of this bishop, can go to the dark squares only. Okay, so that's what the bishop is. Now, for the bishops, how many different squares can the bishop go if he is on e4? Now we move forward to the queen. For the queen, it's the most powerful piece on the board. It's the combination of the power of the rook and the bishop. Unlike the bishop that can move to only one colored square, the queen can move to light squared and dark squares. But if it's on the dark square, it can only move to the dark square. If it's on the light square, it can only move to light colored square. Okay, so it moves up, down, left, and right, and diagonal. So that's how powerful the queen is. Of course, like the bishop and like the rook, it can move to any number of squares it desires to, for as long as there is nothing in between the path of the queen. That's the queen. Now, again, on the comment section, write how many different squares the queen can go. And this is the king, the most important piece on the board. The king is the most important because if you trap the king, if you checkmate the king, that's what they call. If the king cannot protect itself anymore, then you win or you lose the game. It ends the game. So that's how important the king is. So the king should always be safe. And the king, unlike the queen, that can move from one square to square afar for as long as it's on a straight line, the king only moves one square at a time. So if he wants to go here on A1 from E4, he needs to move one, two, three, four times to actually reach the A1. Now, the king can move one square up, one square down, one square left, one square right, one square diagonal, and that's how the king moves. Okay? So this is how the king is moving. So the king can move how many different squares? Now we go to the most tricky piece on the board, and this is the knight. And it's very difficult to explain as well. But my mother, when she taught me how to move the knight, she told me it resembles the figure of an L of different direction. See, an L lying down, an L standing up, the correct L, the L in reverse. Okay, so all different L's. But, okay, to explain further, the knight moves up, down, left, and right. Two squares up, two squares down, two squares left, and two squares right. But it always turns. It doesn't stop after it reaches two squares up, down, left, and right. It can turn to the right. It can turn to the left. It can turn up. It can turn down. These are the options where the knight could go. Okay, turn left, turn right, turn down, turn up. Okay. This is how the knight moves. Okay, and we will be able. Right now, it's very difficult for you to actually check it out. But if you practice, it will just come natural to you how the knight moves. So, for example, you plan to come here. Which square are you going to reach here on the second move? You have two options. First option is going to c5, and the next option is going to d6. So that after that, you can go 1, 2, turn, or 1, 2, turn. And that's how the knight moves. Now we move forward to the pawn. The pawn is the piece that starts on the second rank. Unlike the other pieces that starts in the first rank, this pawn starts on the second rank. And there are plenty of pawns on the board. There are 8 pawns when you start. Now, see, there are conditions for the pawn movements. If it is on its original square, it can start moving 2 squares up. Or if you choose, just move it 1 square up. It's your choice. It depends on how you want to play the game. See, if you are in the starting position, you have the option of moving one square or 2 squares up. Now, if you already move the pawn, for example, this pawn that decided to move on e4 and choose to move twice, Can this pawn move two squares up? Yes or no? Of course not. Okay? Because it's not on its original square anymore. It can only move forward one square at a time. How about this f3 square? F3 pawn. This f3 pawn, can this pawn move twice because he did not use the ability to move twice? No, the rule doesn't allow that. For if you decided to move the pawn once, then you will be only moving the pawn one square at a time. How about this g pawn? Can this g pawn move twice? Move two squares up? Of course it can. It can move two squares up because it's on its original square. Okay, and that is the pawn. Another thing about the pawn is that it captures differently. If there is a pawn or a piece here in front of the pawn, it cannot capture it. But if the pieces are on this diagonal side going up, of course it can. Okay, the capture of the pawn, according to the rules of chess, is diagonal. The pawn can also not move backwards. If the pawn is already here on e4, it will not be able to go back to e3 and e2 again. It can only move forward. Okay? So this is the starting position for white again. Okay? Second rank is on all the pawns that you have. On the a1 is the rook and also the h1. The knights are on g1 and on b1. And the bishop is on c1 and f1. The king is on e1 and the queen is on d1. Now, if you are starting with black, this is the point of view. If you will notice, it doesn't start on the left with A. It starts with H, and it doesn't start with number 1. You're starting with 8. So H8, no? And the other rook is on A8. The knights are on B8. The bishops are on C8 and F8. The king for both pieces are on the E file. Okay? And the queen is always on the D file. Now, if you will notice, this is a problem for new players. Where do they put the queen? Okay. The trick here is this. You have to look at the color of your piece. If you are playing white, then you will put the queen on the white square, and that's the D1 square. If you're playing black, then you are going to put your king on dark colored square. So the rule is the queen will take the color. And how do you know if the board is correct? Always check if the board on the right corner part is the white square. See? White square and white square. Okay, so I hope you learned something from our video today, from our lesson. I will be waiting for your answers in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed watching and see you again on the next videos. Please subscribe and follow me for more interesting videos about chess. Thank you so much.